For a while, I've wanted to make a game with multiple games in it, sort of like a launcher. I'd made prototypes in Scratch and Google Slides a few years ago, but I never actually made a proper game with this idea. Until now. I was just playing Hollow Knight and I failed on a really difficult piece of parkour after hours of playing. I decided that I should make a game just to calm down. A few minutes of thinking, I finally decided to make a game based off the idea I had a few years ago. Multiple games in one. I started with the menu and instantly had a problem. Text wouldn't grow with the screen size. The fix was super simple, but I wasn't really thinking at the time. Searched up a bunch of UI tutorials, hoping one of them would have the idea I needed. And after a while, I finally realized that I needed to click a few buttons in the game tab. So once that was fixed, I started to work on the menu much more because last time I only had a title and 2 buttons, which only the quit button worked. I made the start button take you to a new part of the menu with 5 more buttons, each one taking you to a different game. With all the menu out of the way for now, I started to make the first game. The first game I wanted was a clicker game, which was super simple. Followed a tutorial that told me how to add 1 to a variable and make the variable display at the top of the screen. I quickly made some art for the button and eventually settled on a circle with his name Circle with an S at the start instead of a C. I made the background brighter and made an exit button which will take you back to the menu. I modified the button in the menu which takes me to the first game. The next game I wanted to make was Cube, a game from my previous video. I instantly ran into some coding issues and gave up. I came back and just copied and pasted the script with the original game into the new one. I never actually found out what the error was from earlier. After I got that fixed, I made the exit button like the clicker game and started to make some gameplay. There's only about 15 seconds worth of gameplay, and the difficulty goes from very easy to quite difficult between 2 obstacles, but honestly, did you really just spend half an hour making a decently long level? Anyway, after that I made a button in the menu send you to Cube and went back to the clicker game. I made an upgrade that will double how much you get per click. I was going to start making a platformer game, then realised that the game built as a 3D game and I couldn't place 2D objects. I decided to make a dropper game instead. I eventually got a bit bored of Unity though and started to play some IO games. After about 40 minutes, I came back to Unity and started working on a way which you could drop. And to my surprise, I got no errors. I wanted to make it so that when you press space, the game would activate gravity and you would start to fall, but I couldn't figure out how to do that, so I just made an invisible object that would sit under the player and would stop colliding with the player when you press space. After I did that, once again, I got distracted by IO games. After I stopped, I got back to working on the game and I stopped the camera from rotating because it was really disorientating. I also changed the player from a cube to a sphere because the cube would roll strangely and made the camera move up and down slightly at the start, which just looked really cheap. I tweaked the movement of the player at the start and extended the map. Then I made a nice looking background for the game because the default Unity one just wasn't going to work. After that I modified the map some more because you could get stuck and I didn't want that. I made the background darker so the player would focus more on the game, not the extremely bright background. I made the map taller again and fixed a few bugs that caused the player to fly out of the map. The next time that I worked on the game, I started to make a score system that would go up every time you hit one of the cylinders across the map. I didn't finish that though and played some more IO games. After half an hour later, I came back and finished the score system. After that I made an exit to menu button like in all the other games and made some text that would explain how to play. I tried to make a fail screen, but when I was making it all the buttons just stopped working and I couldn't fix it, so I stopped working on the game for a bit. I tried to fix the problem but couldn't figure it out, so I deleted the whole canvas and remade everything. After that I made an image for the button in the menu that would take you to the dropper, and I think it looks pretty good. I sat there thinking for a new idea for the 2 games I hadn't made yet, and I couldn't think of anything that wasn't going to take ages to make, so I left it for later. Next I made an information menu explaining why I made this game, for views I mean, because it was an educational experience. Yeah. Anyway I made a new and better looking button to my YouTube channel, and a code to take you to my channel page. After that I got bored of making the game and played some Hollow Knight. It had been a while and I still hadn't thought of any new game ideas, so I just deleted the 2 extra buttons and repositioned the remaining 3. Now it's time to make some music, because it was kind of boring and dead silence. Copied and pasted Pig Vibe and menu theme from Cube. I then made new music for 2 more games, the clicker and the dropper. Started working on a half decent song, but it was too suspenseful for a clicker game or a dropper game, so I just saved the file maybe for later. After spending all that time on music, I wanted a break, so I made a custom cursor twice. They both didn't look very good, but I'll have to do. I also actually made the thumbnail this early, which probably wasn't a good idea, but luckily I never made any drastic changes that would require me to make a new thumbnail. I started making some new music for the clicker game, but my earpods decided to disconnect constantly, which was really annoying. I decided not to go through the pain of figuring out how to get my earpods to work, so I grabbed the headphones that I use for school, which I actually mentioned in an old video. I got free headphones today, in case anyone cared. I eventually made the song for the clicker game. Later that same day, I made this for the dropper game. With the game finally done, I exported it, but there was one problem. I didn't have a web version. I wanted this to be playable in your browser because not all of my viewers had Windows. It took 44 minutes of exporting, finding an issue and fixing it, and then finding another issue. I'm surprised that I had this much dedication at the time. In the end though, I managed to export it with only a few minor issues, so now you can play on almost any computer. So that's how I made my old dream game. It's not how I originally planned it to be like a few years ago, but it's still better than my previous game I've made with Unity. Thanks for watching.